Welcome to another mini-sode with Jackie Pierce, your English instructor. I'm going to talk today very quickly about some key terms that are going to help you as you navigate writing in college. This applies for English classes, but it applies in other classes as well. It even applies in some cases on tests. Instructors at college tend to use some vocabulary that mostly we know what it means, but we don't always stop to think about what it means for writing. And when you're assigned a paper or assigned a topic for an in-class writing or for a discussion board or for an exam question, there are some key terms that I really want you to keep in mind. So these are the list. There's the list of the ones that we're going to talk about a little bit today. Let's start with a paragraph. So the definition of a paragraph is a group of related sentences developing one main idea. Now, typically, when we think of paragraphs, we think of about 5 to 7 sentences, although I will say that in some cases here at Post, 7 to 9 is more what they're looking for. So kind of have to keep an eye out for that. Personally, I don't like to count sentences at all in a paragraph. I like to look at it visually on a page. So for me, when you're writing an essay or writing even a paragraph assignment, if your paragraph is at least a half to 3/4 of a page, once you've typed and double spaced it, I think you're in pretty good shape. Another little reminder about paragraphs is that first line is going to be indented a half an inch. The topic sentence, which is related to paragraphs, is the single sentence that states the main idea of a paragraph. Typically, we kind of tend to think of it at the beginning of the paragraph, although it doesn't have to be. And sometimes it's not even directly stated as much as it is implied. It does follow that a guideline that I learned many years ago, which is that good writing is 25% idea and 75% detail. So if you have 5 sentences and one of them's the idea, the rest of it is going to be details to support or prove or illustrate that idea. So it's kind of a good rule of thumb there. An essay, on the other hand, is a group of related paragraphs, again, developing one main idea. That also helps fit the 25% idea, 75% detail equation. Your essays will be unified around a specific thesis statement, which we'll talk about here in a second. And then what you do to support that is use support, proof, details. The length issue with an essay is much more open. Typically, if someone asks you to write an essay for college, it's not going to be less than 3 paragraphs. You'll always have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And that body can contain many paragraphs. But typically we think of at least 3 body paragraphs. So 5 paragraphs or more for your standard essay. A thesis is the single sentence that states the topic and the controlling idea, meaning what aspects of the topic you're going to cover. Typically, and I absolutely say for college writing, if you place your thesis statement at the end of your introductory paragraph, your life is going to be a lot easier. That is where it's expected. That's where it's looked for. And so having it there is a good idea. Doesn't have to be technically, but I would do it. Basically, that thesis statement is creating a roadmap for the reader so that they know what's coming in the body of the essay. That's one reason why I always say put it right next to the body. End of the intro leads right into what it's telling the reader what to expect. Another term that's important, and I've already used it today, is introduction. An introduction is literally the opening paragraph of an essay. The final sentence is the thesis statement. We're just going to go with it. And there are a lot of different techniques you can use to decide what else to do with those 5 to whatever sentences at the beginning before the thesis. But some common techniques would be to ask a question, tell a story or an anecdote, give a startling fact or statistic, or open with a quotation. Typically, you don't want your introductions to be terribly long, because you want the real meat of the matter to be in the body of your essay. Conclusion, of course, is the opposite end, the final paragraph of the essay. And traditionally, we think of the conclusion as leaving the reader with something to think about, or even to do, to take some action. Usually in the traditional setup, the first sentence of the conclusion is sort of a restatement of the thesis. You want to be careful that it's not just literally a restatement of the thesis, but kind of a recap. And some common conclusion techniques like story, quote, and question we've already seen, but a new one that is specific more to the conclusion is what we call a call to action. And that's where you're asking the reader to actually do something with the new knowledge that you have shared. So those are your vocabulary words for the day. I hope you enjoyed your mini lesson, and I will see you next time. Everybody take care.